Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to Apply. All right, so today I have Todd Applebaum on the line, and he's co-founder and managing director at Converge Consulting. Todd, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adam. It's a pleasure to be with you.
All right, Todd. So I'm excited to get into today's topic. So we'll be talking about how you're helping innovative biotech companies grow and really plan for drivers. And the ultimate goal there is to execute, which is also going to supply and feed innovation. So excited to talk more about that. But just to get us started, we'll start with our Mission Matters Minute. So Todd, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. So that's our mission here. Todd, what mission matters to you?
Thanks, Adam. This is really an exciting time in healthcare and medicine, with so many changes driving an incredible amount of innovation for biotech companies and in the life sciences in general. And this is requiring new ways of doing business for these companies. There are two macro drivers that we really see as making a big impact right now. The first is a more intense pressure to increase quality and value in healthcare from governments, obviously, but also from societal pressures. At the same time, there's new innovations in science and technology that is allowing companies to treat diseases and serious medical conditions, not only at the symptomatic level, but at their genetic source. Both of these, kind of working from opposite directions, are driving pharma and biotech companies to focus more on the patient, and specifically on improving patient outcomes. I co-founded Converge Consulting with my partner, Scott Rosenberry, who's our current head of business development, specifically to help biotech and pharmaceutical companies understand these drivers in the new environment and help them bring their science to market through sound strategy, reliable operations, and excellent execution. Our company is dedicated exclusively to serving life science companies and helping our clients get their medicines and their innovative therapies to market will improve and even save lives for patients.
That's great, Todd. And love bringing mission-based entrepreneurs, executives, and experts on the line to share why they do what they do, like what gets them up in the morning, what gets them fired up about their day. So thank you for sharing that. And so just we'll get a lot further into some of the trends you're seeing in biotech and pharma. And also, of course, I want to learn more about Converge Consulting and bring that information to my audience. But just to get us kicked off, like tell us a little bit more about your background and maybe how you got started on this path to founding Converge Consulting.
Certainly. So my early background was in manufacturing, in the automotive industry initially, and then in high-tech electronics in the PC industry. I saw early on the strategic value that manufacturing and operations can bring to a company in helping them focus on their customers and really the ability to react well to customer needs. Then in kind of a transitional role, I worked with a broad range of manufacturers through a traditional Big Five consulting in one of the large firms. I entered the life sciences industry specifically after that point and spent a lot of time dealing with the manufacturing and supply chains in the biologics side of the industry. I saw how removed from patients a lot of the traditional pharmaceutical industry models are. And after that, I wound up as head of technical operations for an innovative, a small startup biotech company with an autologous cell therapy treatment. And I witnessed up close how important the focus on patients is and the focus on patient outcomes in delivering these new treatments like cell therapies and gene therapies and other regenerative medicines. So as a result, it all kind of led me to this point where I've seen and I understand the power and the potential of applying manufacturing and operations best practices to build a strategic advantage for companies. And then the value of bringing a truly professional consulting and professional services approach to the industry as well. And that's what kind of led me to Converge.
That's awesome. And so I want to shift gears a bit. So I want to go into some, because you're in a unique vantage point, and I think how you're helping biotech companies also in terms of helping them execute and what you're doing and just what you plan for in the day to day is quite unique. So let's get more into some of maybe the trends that you're seeing in the shift. You mentioned it a little bit, and when I asked you the, what mission matters to you question, but let's go further. So what kind of trends are you seeing right now?
Good, absolutely. So healthcare and medicine is changing dramatically, and the momentum is leading us towards this real focus on patient outcomes and improving patient outcomes. We see two very significant trends at the moment. One is this growing political, economic, and social pressure to improve value for the healthcare dollar.
Mm-hmm.
And value in healthcare is measured on the one hand as the cost of the care, and on the other side as quality for that cost. And quality is really best measured in terms of patient outcomes. Mm-hmm. The cost side is where most of the attention has been focused for the past several decades. And hospitals, physicians, and payers have really hit the cost side of the equation through a focus on reducing labor costs and material costs. Mm-hmm. But with those kinds of costs already squeezed, the pressure is to drive and keep those costs down. And a lot of that pressure is now being pushed back on manufacturers who are being tasked with helping to control those costs of the products and the procedures. And we're seeing that evidenced by pricing and reimbursement challenges for these new treatments coming to market. As those costs have been squeezed, the focus more recently is really shifting towards patient outcomes. Mm-hmm. The way to keep margins up is through innovation and ways to really show the benefits of these new treatments for the patients themselves. So payers and healthcare providers now understand that improving outcomes requires more than just a doctor writing a prescription or putting a pill in a bottle and getting a patient on a treatment. Improving patient outcomes really requires things like additional education, training, monitoring of patient conditions, in some cases financial assistance. It could be diagnostics and devices along with a pharmaceutical to ensure patients not only get onboarded onto the treatment effectively, but they stay on the treatment to ensure the benefits are actually realized. Mm-hmm. And in addition to that, more and more care is being provided outside of the traditional acute care hospital setting. And this is a direct result of the cost reduction emphasis we've seen in the past decade. So care is moving to physicians' offices, clinics, and even in some cases to patient home settings. The pharmaceutical and biotech manufacturers are now being the ones tasked to make those treatments available safely and reliably and in a convenient form in these non-traditional settings. So those are some of the challenges that the manufacturers are facing. The second big sea change that we're seeing is coming from the new innovative science and technologies driven by our increased understanding of the human genome. This allows scientists to identify and treat the genetic causes of disease and other health issues. Yeah. Where in the past, we've really only been able to treat the symptoms of these diseases. Now we've got the potential to correct the underlying genetic causes and potentially to cure them permanently. Truly game-changing patient outcomes. We're seeing these innovations in cell therapies and gene therapies and in areas like gene editing. As a result, these companies are breaking away from the traditional mass market big pharma models and bringing their new treatments much more directly and much more closely to patients. They can now treat and target smaller subsets of patient populations who share a similar disease characteristics with precision medicine, even to the point of individually personalized medicines in some cases. This focus shifts many of the drivers of what makes a successful business. The smaller targeted patient populations and the complexity of administering these treatments means these companies need to have a much closer relationship and more direct interactions between the drug manufacturer, the physicians, and their patients.
Mm-hmm.
And the treatments themselves are now being bundled with ancillary products and services, convenience devices and diagnostics, and even with information and data. And they're being delivered to patients in new ways and in these new care locations.
Mm-hmm.
This is really the opportunity that we see. We essentially sit at the convergence of these major trends in healthcare, and we help our biotech and pharmaceutical clients bring these innovative treatments to patients in new ways.
Yeah, I think it is a really exciting time for biotech and pharma and healthcare in general, because as you mentioned, the increased focus on patient outcomes and some of the other things that are in place. I mean, when I first was considering this, and when we did some of our pre-call and things like this, I was like, man, does that stifle innovation? Does it hold it back? But really, I mean, it just depends. There's another side to that. With working with companies like Converge Consulting, by becoming better at what you do, by executing better. I mean, the ultimate goal of this should be improve patient outcomes. That's the whole point of the healthcare system, right? We want to help people, and everybody plays their part on that. And speaking of that, so I'd like to go further into, you mentioned some of it, but I want to go deeper also in terms of what you're doing at Converge Consulting. So tell us maybe a little bit more about the day-to-day there and how you're helping companies grow and also innovate.
Great. Thank you, Adam. And again, you're absolutely right. The exciting part of this whole shift is kind of moving away from a singular focus on cost toward this improving patient outcomes. And that's where a lot of the potential lies for the companies we work with and for helping them realize those goals. So what we do at Converge is we help biotech companies and biopharmaceutical companies of all sizes understand this new landscape of patient outcomes focused medicine, and then develop and execute strategies and operating processes to successfully bring their innovative treatments to patients. Our focus is really on several key transformations, or what we think of as moments of truth, in helping these companies succeed. The first moment of truth comes in the transformation that we see companies make from preclinical to clinical operations. For some of our clients, this means supporting them in generating some of the IND enabling data necessary for them to begin human clinical trials. These preclinical companies face incredible scientific and technical risks, and we help them navigate the uncertainties and mitigate the risks while they build the internal and external operations that are necessary to support those clinical trials. Companies at this stage, they need expertise in early manufacturing processes and scale up, in stage appropriate quality systems and processes, and basic supply and vendor management. The risks they face usually prohibit them from investing too early in building a lot of internal infrastructure and hiring a large organization. And that's where we can help out. For our clients at this stage, we provide strategy, budgeting and planning, and real fractional subject matter expert support as needed to build these stage appropriate processes and systems to help them transform from preclinical to clinical stage operations. One of our clients, for example, is a biologics company taking a truly innovative approach to using artificial intelligence to identifying high probability antibody targets. And this approach will help them shave years off of the research and discovery process and really accelerate their progress to clinical trials. And we're there to help them in that accelerated way to make sure that the rest of the company is ready when their targets are identified and ready to be developed. The next moment of truth comes in helping clients prepare for their first commercial product launch. Many of our clients are at this stage, and they're preparing for the transformation from now being a clinical stage company to more of a commercial operating business. And companies at this stage are generally still operating in a very conservative mode financially. They're not generating profits yet. Many of them aren't even generating revenues. They require expertise in building and operating a commercial GMP manufacturing and supply chain.
Hmm.
but they're generally unwilling to invest in the internal organization until their NDA or BLA submission is accepted, and
Yeah.
sometimes not until their product is actually approved by the agencies. For these kinds of clients, Converge provides a combination of senior level industry practitioner expertise,
Yeah.
operational leadership, project managers, and hands-on consultants for setting strategies, preparing budgets and forecasts, and executing a lot of the key initiatives that are critical for manufacturing, supply chain, packaging
Hmm.
and labeling, serialization, GMP quality, and the supporting IT infrastructure. An example of one of these is we have a client we've been working with now for about 2 years. They're leveraging their expertise in a particular cellular metabolic pathway,
Yeah.
and they're using that as a platform for actually addressing a broad range of medical conditions.
Mm.
We started working with them to optimize their operations as they grew and their portfolio of clinical programs became more complex.
Hmm.
Our work continued over the period of these several years by providing guidance to plan the strategies to then be able to build the global commercial manufacturing, supply, and logistics network.
Yeah.
They received their FDA approval earlier this year for their first commercial product, and their transformational drug is now being marketed here in the US with an EU approval decision coming up very soon. We're now continuing to work with them and preparing for their next NDA filing for their next development program.
That's pretty amazing, and it makes sense to me because as I'm sitting here listening to you and I see this, the difference between maybe hitting that objective the way that you were able to help them do, and not what you did was you saved them. I would argue a lot of time by bringing your expertise to the table, and possibly a lot of money, right? On not having that outside, that outside viewpoint of how maybe of some things that they might have been missing. So those missteps in that area can be very costly, and they can also, cost the company that time is not your friend on that one. Am I off on this assessment or?
No, you're absolutely right. And I think it can be demonstrated cost avoidance and the cost reductions that we've brought to them through the expertise that we're able to provide.
Mm-hmm.
The other area, though, that where this provides some huge benefits to our clients is in managing the overall business risk.
Yeah.
When they're looking at bringing a product to market and launching, there's regulatory risks and clinical data risks and all kinds of risks and uncertainties that they face. If they can delay significant investments until some of that risk has been mitigated, then they're much better off, and you don't have as much investment at risk, and you certainly avoid the situation where you might need to then pivot and maybe reduce and downsize from something you've just built.
Yeah, I totally get it. And I don't want to oversimplify this, of course, because I understand every company, the size, the founder, the stage they're at, all of these things can contribute to a multitude of answers and directions. But what are some of those common themes or things that you see when you bring on a new client, you're working with a new, you're looking under the hood, so to speak. You said you come once upon a time in automotive, right? So you're looking under the hood and you're like, okay, I can see some errors here. I can see some opportunity, I should say, based on maybe them not focusing on the correct key drivers or on some of the right things that are going to make move their project along. Like, what are some of those key themes that you see over and over again that you help solve for?
Sure. Great question, Adam. I think number one, one of the things we see over and over again is that these companies have excellent science, and the innovation on the scientific and the technical side, it's absolutely top notch. And the areas that they focus on, there are true experts in their fields. At the same time, many of these companies are truly driven by and led by the scientists.
Yeah.
And while they're terrific at what they do, there's not a lot of experience in managing and growing a business, and certainly not in commercializing the drug. And that's where the need comes in to help them fill those gaps, at least until they're ready to to build their own internal organization.
Yeah.
And in some cases, frankly, through the strategic plans they've drawn with their boards of directors and their investments, that may never be in the cards for them. That may never be part of the plan.
Yeah.
And so their reliance on outside help to get these things done is more part of their permanent direction rather than just an interim point.
Wow, I think that's interesting because obviously we're talking about biotech right now, and maybe the scientist or the person that developed the technology, they're the founder, but they may not. I mean, this is common in other sides of business too, right? So the inventor isn't necessarily the person that's going to help the business scale. I don't care what type of company it is, or maybe they're really good at what they do, but that other side of things and the complexity of it, it takes a partner. It takes a partner. It takes some internal things, and it takes experience, especially when you talked about mention the word commercialize, to get it to market and to that point, take a whole lot more than just the science and technology behind it.
Exactly. Right. And
Awesome.
so there are also some transformative points or these moments of truth that we run into later on when more mature companies start to expand globally into new markets. And that, again, is another moment of truth area where they need to rethink what they've built for their first and second commercial launches, and they need to get much more global in their scope and their thinking.
Makes total sense. And this sounds like it's a business challenge, and it sounds like one of the reasons why somebody would look at a company like Converge Consulting. So that being said, what types of companies do you find typically get the most value out of working with you and your team? So is it size of company? Is it a specific niche within biotech or pharma? Like, give me a little bit more feel for who is typically a good fit, because there's going to be a lot of people watching this, of course, and I want to make sure that the right companies do connect with you.
Certainly. Yes. So we do a lot of work today with these young emerging companies. Preclinical moving into the clinic, clinical stage companies making their BLA or NDA submission and then moving into commercial for a commercial launch. We also do work with the smaller and mid-sized commercial biopharmaceutical companies. And I think that the key for us is that these companies are ones that are experts in their technologies, experts in their processes, and the technical side of the business. And they recognize the need to bring in good experienced help and sometimes leadership in these other areas of business management. And that might be setting up operations for the first time or redesigning and re-engineering as they go global later on. But they're pragmatic in understanding what they do well and where they have gaps and could use some support from a good partner.
And in terms of a typical engagement or partnership in this case, like what does that typically look like? Like, what's the process? So does it start with some type of assessment, needs assessment? Like, give me a feel for what it looks like to work and to start that process.
In a lot of cases, you're absolutely right, Adam. It'll start out with something like a small engagement to help them understand what the road ahead looks like.
Yeah.
So if it's a preclinical company, we'll help them understand the major initiatives and activities and even investments and hiring that needs to happen as they make that transformation into the clinic. From there, it can go several different directions, from a more detailed look at the specific plans to get the things done, or even execution support to actually serve to get the building done and put the right capabilities in place, and in some cases manage over time. So from that initial start, which we think of often as building the roadmap with our clients, it then turns into a longer relationship where we're actually helping them execute.
Awesome. And so in terms of, we've talked about a lot today. So you've definitely covered a lot in terms of the trends, how you're helping clients, really how you're helping biotech companies, and you're fueling growth by helping them focus on key drivers and really just run the business. So a lot of this has to do with, as you mentioned, maybe it was the scientist or the person that originally created the technology or the cure or the solution, I should say. So that's the first thing. But maybe there as this business grows, there's going to be different challenges, different things, and different vantage points that need to be brought in. So we've covered quite a bit, but I just have to ask you, so Todd, so what's next? Like, what excites you right now in your field and that you're seeing at the moment?
Boy, that's a great question too, Adam. I think what it is for me and for a lot of our team at Converge is that this kind of scientific innovation, as well as the regulatory and government drivers on cost of healthcare and the focus on outcomes, those aren't going away.
Yeah.
And in fact, from the technical and scientific side, the breakthroughs are even going to accelerate. We're only scratching the surface today on the true genetic causes of disease and being able to treat single gene mutations and things like that. As computing power accelerates, as the science improves, and our knowledge of disease biology and those genetic origins increase, it's only going to accelerate the identification of new approaches to treating disease and other critical health conditions. And that's going to draw continued investment in the industry. It's going to draw continued innovation and challenges in bringing these treatments to market. One thing that isn't going to change is the risks and the uncertainty of developing a new treatment, new drug, and pushing the envelope of scientific discovery. Those risks are going to remain high, and companies, I think, will really need to be able to focus their scarce resources on what they're really good at, which is their science.
Yeah.
And they'll continue to rely on partners, external partners like Converge, to help them get there. So as for Converge, we're going to continue to operate right at this intersection, or convergence, if you will, of where these new scientific breakthroughs enable and drive innovation in operating and in patient care models that will ultimately help to improve those patient outcomes.
Yeah, it's exciting. I see exactly what you said. The pace of innovation, like what's going to continue to happen as people get more efficient with technology, as the science improves, like all of this. I'm just hopeful, because one thing I say we all have in common at the moment, at least. I don't know if this will be the case in the future, but we're all aging, right? Like we're all going to need something at some point. So it makes me feel good sitting in this seat, knowing that there's people out there like you and your team at Converge Consulting, and all of the partners and people you work with, and all of the people in healthcare that have, these big hearts and that are mission based and really focused on improving, in this case, patient outcomes and a number of different things down the line in healthcare. So makes me hopeful. I'm happy. Keep up the great work. Keep on with helping these companies. And I guess I'd say, of course, Todd, if somebody is watching this and they want to learn more about Converge Consulting, what's the best way for them to connect with your team?
I think the best way, the easiest way, is to go to our website, which is www.convergeconsulting.com.
Fantastic. And we'll have all of that, of course, in the show notes so that people can just click on it, make it real easy on them, want them to go check it out. And just want to say thank you for coming on the show today, Todd. It's been really good learning more about what you and your team are doing and the updates on what's going on in biotech and pharma and the trends you're seeing. I mean, unique vantage point from the seat that you sit in. So we appreciate that. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. Hope you had a lot of fun and you learned a lot. If you did, don't forget, hit that subscribe button. We have many more mission-based entrepreneurs, executives, and experts coming up for you. And we don't want you to miss a thing. And Todd, it really has been a pleasure. Thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you, Adam. It truly is an incredibly exciting time. We appreciate it.